Welcome to the Sports Resort,
the People Sports Show. Real talk unfiltered. With your host, Derek Jonkins.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Sports Resort with D Junk, man, where I try to give people information, mainly kids, parents, coaches, man, everybody. I always tell people so much information out there versus 20 years ago, and sometimes you got to grab it, get it, put it in your back pocket, put it in your toolbox, whatever you got to do. Today I got Terrance Reed on here, man. Terrance had a son, man, who was what Grayson, 5-star, 4-star?
Yeah. Some sites had him as a 5 star. Most sites had him as a high 4 star recruit.
Yeah, highly recruited kid coming out. Pretty much had an offer from every school you can name when he came out of high school. Ended up going to Texas A&M, and then kind of moved on. Terrance, I want to hop right into recruiting because much as I talk to parents and I work with kids every day on the recruiting side of it, and we live in 2025, and you be like, golly, they still don't know what to do. So I still get that they lost on the recruiting side of it, man.
Yeah.
And me and you had a quick conversation yesterday where we said, man, even more with so much going on now, parents got to be tapped in more than ever. And a lot of what I see a lot because I'm around kids. A lot of parents just trying to leave it up to the kid. I'll be like, dude, your kid 15, 16, 17 years old. They lost. You got to tap in. Can you dive right into some advice you would give parents on the recruiting trail as a parent who went through recruiting, right? Who's seen your son, from the training to the sports to the recruiting to all kinds of adversity. Just give us the parents a little information.
Yeah, Derek. I mean, you're 100% correct, man. It's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot, coming at these young kids. They're just getting started, and it can be super overwhelming for them. So what I chose to do, and what I would, the advice that I would give to most parents is, number one, you got to be the biggest advocate and supporter of your kid. And what I mean by that is not only on Friday nights, Thursday, Friday nights, Saturday nights, depending on what districts you're in, but what I mean is at home, and helping them manage the process of the recruiting. It can be daunting to a young person. It can be overwhelming. That would be my biggest advice to them is remain in the background, right? Celebrate in the background. It is, of course, the kid's moment, but you have to be mom or dad or both, and you guys have to manage that process for them. There's so many moving pieces, and let's be clear, it's not a secret. College football is a business.
Thanks.
These schools are coming in, and I imagine these coaches, love their lifestyle, and essentially what they're doing is they're putting their paychecks, their livelihood in the hands of these young people that are still developing and so forth. So the main thing I would tell a parent is you have to be involved. And I mean, peeling back the layers, deep diving, having those discussions, weighing the things that the kids may not think of. I'll tell you from my experience, and I get it, being a 16, 17-year-old kid, when these big schools come in, all you see is the glitz and the glams. You see the cool facilities. You see the schools on TV every weekend. You see the gloves. You see the gear. There's much more to that than just the glitz and the glam. There's things like finding the right fit for your kid. And one of the formulas that we used was obviously football was a no-brainer, but even with football, position-wise, does this fit your style of football? Does their scheme match up with your skill set? But take it even further as a parent, I wanted to make sure that we were good with the environment. If football was to end tomorrow, do you see yourself still being part of this community, the environment, the school, and then, of course, the academics, because that, at the end of the day, is the true, goal, is to get that education and to get that degree.
So let me ask, so okay, we hit on that, but now we live in an NIL world, right? Checks getting cut. Some of these,
Yeah,
5 stars demanding $1 million, base. You're an offensive tackle,
right.
you getting 800 racks. A cornerback, 5 star million, 4 star
Yeah,
five. These real numbers. Contract on the line. Coach recruiting coaches. If they bring in a 5 star, they get $10,000 bonuses, right? Four
right,
star they bring in. So parents
right.
got to know that, right? That dude bring your kid in, he getting about 10 racks extra on his salary or whatever. So it's a lot of money moving parts now, and two, now you got a lot of people hopping into agents, all kinds of lawyers. It's all
Right.
kinds of stuff going
Right.
on now. And now you have kids that's jumping schools. Shit, I don't know how I was watching. I guess it ain't have nothing to do, but last Saturday I was watching Western Kentucky, and I want to say Sam Houston played 0 week. I think Sam Houston quarterback was 25 years old. Western Kentucky quarterback was 26 years old. I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit! Damn, I
Yeah.
got any eligibility left. Shit, I'm ordered something. So now you got these guys staying in college alone,
Yeah.
and you got this weekend game, coming up. I was listening to on the radio this morning. They were saying Ohio State returns, I think, one starter on offense.
Right.
Everybody else are transfer portal guys, right? And they
Right.
spent $25 million on their roster versus Texas Tech supposedly spent $50 million on their roster this year, with
Right.
mostly all transfers. So now it's a business now, and and my advice to a lot of parents is to get, especially if you know your son good. I tell people, this not going to affect but 1% of athletes coming out of high school, NIL and the money part. Everybody
100%.
else, if your son or daughter not that echelon 4 or 5 star. They not in this conversation really, honestly.
Right.
3 star guy, you might even get 100 racks. So my advice to a lot of parents is to get financially educated. If you don't, if
100%.
you know, if you don't know, if you put it like this, if you're not financially educated, find somebody you know. Because if your kid is that on that level and people starting to contact them, you got to know that because you don't want to get taken advantage of. So my advice to a lot of parents: if your kid is up that echelon, high star recruit, and shouldn't get a lot of offers and real offers, right? Let's be spade to spade, not these fake offers, right? You
Right.
know, not these. You go to a camp, coach grad. Oh, we will like you, see you here, see your future. Nobody really told you got a scholarship, and
Right.
you go post it on Twitter. Hey, I got an offer. And then you call that coach to commit 3 weeks later. They're like, well, let me get back with you, right? That wasn't a
Yeah.
real offer, right? That's
Yeah.
that's that's not.
100%, man. You hit on a bunch of really good points that, to be honest with you, I had to really just kind of educate myself on a lot of it. But I'll start with your first point. Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't in the time of the NIL,
Yeah, y'all went in that
but
NIL corner, boy. Hey, Gray would have probably got a couple million going on. Shit.
man, Grayson and I talk about that all the time. Like, man, why didn't you just come along like 6 years later? So I look at it in a bunch of different ways. I think it's about time, with the amount of money that these schools, and this is my personal opinion, with the
Me
amount of
too.
money that these schools make, yeah, why not, compensate the players? That being said, uh, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more guardrails around the transfer portal and the
Well, I will
NIL.
say, Terrence, a lot of schools, because consulting work I do, we've been to a lot of universities, A&M, Clemson, I've been to a lot of them. So a lot of these schools now, me use Clemson for example, because I was there recently. A lot of these schools now have big teams around them, around these kids, that's making them understand what they sign. And of course, you still got to get your own representation.
Right,
They have Clemson had a whole massive building they built just for NIL
right,
name, getting these kids
yeah,
help understanding how to run their social media channel. So I
yeah,
think it's gotten way better than when it started. Of course, it's still a
yeah,
wild, wild west, right?
yeah,
You go, you transfer, but on the flip side of it, a coach can leave at any moment, right? And I never forget, my nephew was
100%.
getting recruited, and I think he went on. He was flying on his visit to the school, and the coach calling us, "Hey man, he get on the plane." I'm like, "Why, coach? Yeah, he on the plane. He going." Well, shit, I already took a job somewhere else,
Yeah,
you know.
100%, man,
So,
100%. I mean, you're right about all of it. As I was saying, unfortunately, I didn't come through in that era,
yeah.
but
So I
I
don't,
look
I don't, I don't personally know how. I think they can guard real, but it seems like every time they try to put a little more procedure, somebody gets sued and nobody wants to be in court, so they back off of
right,
it, right?
right.
Just
So,
like the JUCO thing now, right? The JUCO's years don't count no more, right?
right,
The
right,
quarterback in Vanderbilt say, "Know what? JUCO, I forgot what it's called. It's not part of not NCAA. So why this should even count? It's two different companies or whatever,
right,
right?
right.
So now it
Yeah,
don't even count, right? So this
yeah,
guy, shit, I think he's gonna be in college 8, 9 years. I don't want to know. I don't know how many years, but he
yeah,
been in college. So those 2 years he did JUCO don't count, right?
right.
It's a trickle effect, which when I came out here, I was a prop at 48. Hell, I lost a year. I played 3 years in college.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that
yeah.
and
That
Prop
was that thing.
48, you
Yeah,
got to be like Prop 48 was straight, and that was a straight hard
yeah,
rule, right? Like
yeah,
that was
yeah,
like you didn't have this, And I thought, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that rule targeted inner city kids. Nobody can tell me nothing
Yeah.
different because
Well,
that's who
those.
affected the most. Why should I lose
Yeah.
3 years of 2 years of college because I didn't make this on
Yeah.
a test that I don't have the means to even learn how to even take? Right? Who you can't
Right.
afford that stuff.
E-
So that Prop
exactly.
48 throw it out the window. So he got a lot of points on that, man. So what's your outlook on the NIL stuff now?
So I love it. I think it's a good deal, and I feel like at the end of the day, once again, that falls back on the parents to do their due diligence and to do their homework and to manage that for a kid. If you drop that kind of money on me at 19, 18, I'm sure I would make some poor decisions.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't understand the value of money. You know what I mean? At
True.
that point in time, because I never had money. And I think it's up to the parents to educate themselves with a few names like Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Charles Schwab, Edward Jones, because it's a real unique opportunity. And you hit the nail on the head when you said, man, we're talking about 1% of kids that will have that opportunity. Now let's talk about the percentage of kids that will actually make it to the NFL. So I love it. I love it. I feel like it can. Maybe help restructure the focus of the kid on, in my opinion, what is the goal in this is the free education, because you're able to take this NIL money and you're able to invest it when you talk to investors at these institutions that will have that money placed somewhere to where it's gaining compound interest or it's growing. So at the end of the day, you're going to leave that school, whether it's going to the NFL or, you know, like I do, man, football, you're one play away from being hurt or injured. Hopefully you're just hurt. Injury means surgery, long recoveries, and at the end of the day, we have no idea what's going on mentally inside of a young person's head. So, I love the NIL deal. Right now, it is what it is, but that doesn't mean that the parents can't take control of that situation and make some really good decisions on the behalf of their children. Great opportunity to get them started off in life, with a good foundation financially. So I like it in that regard.
Yeah, man, you hit it on the nose. You name those companies out there, and there's a million more up there. But you're right. Like, I was, I was telling the guy I trained that playing in the field. I was like, man, where your money at? He was like, I'm just sitting in the bank. I say,
Yeah,
damn, bro, you ain't got it. Money marketing account
yeah,
or
yeah. At
nothing.
the very
No
least,
SP
yeah,
500. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, you got a lot of money. Shit, it's gonna
yeah,
flip real quick. But they don't. It's interesting. They don't understand that, right? And it took me a while to understand that. I always say
yeah,
you got to put
yeah,
yourself around people
yeah.
that gonna give you great advice, and they say, "Hey, D. John, whoop, won't you do this, do this?" Now, next thing you know, 20 years later, you set like you,
100%. You
unless you go
said
and
it.
buy some crazy stuff every day, you set and you
Yeah,
good, and you can make some good decisions. But I think, as long as those parents and kids that's making that kind of money, put themselves around good people and understand to get educated at it, take some classes, look up stuff. I mean, it's so much
yeah.
information out there, and I think you can. And two, I mean, I think I was watching one video, guy, shit with his NIL money. I think he paid. Oh yeah, he bought his mom a house. He had got like a million. Like he was making a million a year from the school, and he bought his mom $100,000 house. Which
Yeah,
made sense because I was. He broke it down. He had good people around him. You can kind of tell. His mom never had a house before. He lived in an apartment. That made
right.
sense, right? He's like, know what? The mortgage on it. He put such and such down. The mortgage every
Hmm.
month was like, I think he said 1,500. And
Yep.
where they was living at, she was paying 800, so it made sense for him versus going to get $1 million house and he make a million, right? So he had,
Right.
and I forgot the dude's name, but it just showed me they had some people around him that understood and helped him out. Like, okay, you're gonna be able to afford this for her, blah 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 blah. It's not a
Right.
big commitment. You're gonna be able to afford that for her in the long term. So I think it definitely can change a lot of kids and parents' houses. So back on the recruiting trip, right? When
Yep.
your son came out, right, he had an offer from everybody, right?
Hmm.
How did you dissect, who was real and who was fake, right? Because everybody, they see your boy, he's 6'5",
Yep.
300, look good, swole up, cousin, you short, but they find grandpa, he tall, cousin play at Texas,
Yeah.
cousin play in NFL. So they see the pedigree, right? They looking it up.
Right. Right.
They looking, that's why I tell Perry, man, them coaches know everybody in your family that played ball. Hell, I had a kid, got recruited. And I never forget this. He say, Coach, such and such came to the school. And I was like, okay. he was talking to me, and I told him my mom and dad was on the way to pick me up. He was like, Coach stood out there and waited for my mom and dad to come because he wanted to see how big they was.
Oh yeah.
Right? So
Oh
parents
yeah.
always, and of
Yeah.
course, in this kid,
Yeah.
dad was like, shit, six
Yeah.
four, mom was 6'2". So the coach
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh yeah, you got an offer right now. Don't, if you want to commit, just go, right?
Yeah.
So how did you dissect that? Because your son coming out highly recruited, coming out of Texas, offers from everywhere. It can get, like you said earlier, it can get very bombarding, right? Everybody hitting
Yeah.
you, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah, friends, cousins you don't even know calling you. How did y'all handle that?
So man, it's no secret recipe. It's just being I 100% involved myself in the process in a position of supporting Grayson. So that meant when the phone calls were happening and the discussions were happening, hey, put your phone on speakerphone so that I can help guide you through these questions, so I can help hear what's going on. At the same time, I'm making an assessment as well. Uh, and these colleges, these schools are a brand, so you essentially have to treat your athlete and your family as a brand as well, right? So you gotta do you gotta deep dive, and I'll just give you a clear example. All of these schools were coming in on Grayson. That's great. That's wonderful. I mean, it's a blessing. It can be very, very easy to just get caught up in all of the excitement. However, take it a step further. How many athletes are you taking at this position, and how many scholarships are you throwing out, right? Across the nation. So I'll give you an example. In Grayson's recruiting class, O-line recruiting class, 2017, uh, most of the schools were only signing 4 offensive linemen, right? So then I needed to have conversations with Grayson with, okay, I need to know your top 10. I need to know your top 8 because I need to keep an eye on who's committing to these schools, how many spots are left. So that's what I mean by managing the business behind the scenes with your son. They could easily throw out 30 offers across the nation, but they're only taking 4. Of course, internally, they have a board to where they have their pecking order. So you got to be engaged with the coaches as well. I felt like they not only needed to recruit Grayson, and I think they quickly understood from our conversations and our interactions that, okay, we need to recruit Dad also because he's going to be a big factor in more than likely where Grayson makes his decision. And I don't mean that as in forcing Grayson to go where I think he should go, but they're definitely going to be having conversations, and Dad's word has a lot of weight.
Correct,
So
correct.
what that opened up for me is they were not only communicating with Grayson, but they were communicating with me very heavily as well as to what was
Mm-hmm.
going on. So and we had a formula. Our formula was education, community, football, pretty much in that order. So deciding what do you want to major in? What do you want to do later in life? So for example, if it was, oh, I want to be in business. Okay, which one of these schools has good business programs? Okay, so then we would visit those schools. While we're there, we would stay there for a few days so that we could look at the community. We would immerse and get ourselves out into the community, going out to eat, finding out things to do in those communities, and just walking around and getting in the field because that's important also. And another thing is I wanted to respect these coaches. They spend a lot of time, they spend a lot of effort, a lot of money traveling, away from their families, recruiting your son. So that was another thing we factored in. We weren't going to play the commit, decommit game. We wanted to make sure we did our due diligence in deciding where he wanted to go out of respect for those coaches. So it just boils down to mom and dad. You gotta you're the PA. You're the personal assistant. You're combing and looking through all of this stuff. And I will say, but at the end of the day, it was Grayson's journey. Once we sat down and made an educated decision on where we were going to go, I still wanted it to be about him and not about me. The last thing I wanted to do was have to show up a year later because he wasn't happy, and we didn't check all those boxes, and he was wanting to leave because now I'm starting that whole process over again, and it's very daunting. It's a lot, man. A lot of long nights.
So I think you told me not too long ago that you had a thing where you would, y'all would email or contact the coaches. How did
Yeah.
you go about that? Because
So
I get that a lot. Parents
yeah,
ask me, Coach, what should I do? Should I do? I'm like, so give us
yeah,
some advice on it because I get a lot of people
yeah.
asking me that, more so the kids, like I tell a lot of parents, that, man, sometimes I think I'll be talking to a brick wall or a ghost or something. I'll be like, y'all gotta, it's a team effort. You can't just put it on them, right?
That's man, one
It's a
hundred
team
percent.
effort,
That's
man. It's a
that's
it's a
it.
team. You the coach, he the kid.
Right.
You the head. You pay the bills in the house. They ask you for some shoes to give you some money, so you
One
gotta
hundred
lead them.
percent.
You gotta help them. It's a teamwork.
Yep. A
So
lot
how
of
you go
things
about
I
that? Terrence doing that.
so a lot of things I did behind the scene to this day that Grayson probably doesn't even know, doesn't even matter. Me being his dad, number one, his biggest advocate too, and a fan of his as well. I just generated a letter, and I said to myself in the beginning, before any school knew that Grayson existed, we want school money. If there's any way that with his talent we can get a free education, I didn't care where it was. So
Mm-hmm.
I generated a letter, and it was very simple. In the subject line, it just state Grayson Reed, his height, his weight, the high school he went to, and his classification. And I just drafted a letter that spoke to us being interested in their school as an academic institution as well as a football program. And I would just fire them off. Just fire them off. I just kind of set a schedule that every evening after I finished taking care of my business, that I wanted to email at least 4 to 5 schools daily. And that took a lot of research, Googling the position coaches, because as you mentioned, they move a lot, they change. So making sure to the best of my ability, I had the right contact information. And even when Grayson's recruiting took off and heated up, I still continued that on social media platform, Twitter. If there were some schools that Grayson was interested in, we ran into an interesting, not really a problem, but of course, Cedric was his cousin. Most
Mm-hmm.
schools pegged him as, oh yeah, he's 100% a UT guy. Do we have a chance? And we're talking about schools from out of state. And Grayson would talk in his interviews with the media, 247 Sports, all these different outlets. He would speak, and his language would speak to almost like, yeah, yeah, I'm pretty much a Southern kid. I don't know if I'm interested in the Michigans, the UCLAs, and all of this stuff. And so I had to manage that as well with him to say, hey, listen, when you talk, you're pegging yourself into, yeah, 100%, I'm staying down south. And that's maybe why the schools outside of Texas in the southern region aren't pulling the trigger or coming in. So it's little things like that. Like if you want an opportunity to know what else is out there, you have to be open and you have to change your vocabulary. You have to change your language. And so once we did that, yeah, the school said, okay, well, just I had no idea. Yeah, just give us a chance to recruit you. We just want to show you what we have to offer, and if you're open to it, yeah. You got to remember these schools, they spend money, man, catching flights, driving, traveling, and so it's just little things like that,
Yeah, you're right.
But
You're
but
right
you
on that. So,
you just got to
yeah,
be an
you're right
advocate
on
of your
that. So
kid.
he ended up going to Texas A&M,
Yep.
like as I look back on to it, and I've talked to him over the years when he went through injuries and shit. Called him like,
Yeah.
hey man, there's life
Yeah.
after ball, bro. Figure that shit out. Like
Yeah.
move on. And I will say he's one of the and I'm around shit. I've been around so many athletes over 27, 30 years of my life, and he's one of the few that figured his, know what, football is over with. I'm at A&M.
Yeah.
All my boys have moved on to the NFL. I had a few injuries. NFL probably is a long shot. Let me hop
Yep.
into my career. And he hop into the
Yeah.
coaching now, and that's something, I look at him and I say, man, I'm proud of you, bro, because you figured that out at an early age. You're already in your career at a young age, man. Very few
Yeah.
people in their career are already early 20s. It's normally, now I always use us guys, especially when you play
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah.
It's normally if you play ball in college and it don't work out for you in NFL, it normally take us about 30 something to figure out life.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
calling a spade a
Yeah.
spade. Like it take
Yeah.
we normally chase ball, we normally chase them NFL dreams about 6, 7 years after it's over with. Try to play in
Right.
every little league is around, you know,
Yeah.
and working out, but then we figure it out. But he figured it out real quick, and I'm proud of him. So kind
Yeah.
of hop over right quick. So he goes to
Yeah.
A&M, moves
Yeah.
on, gets his degrees and stuff. GA's there at USC now, having,
Yeah.
doing great there. Hopefully they win some games this year. I told him it's a national championship or bust. I don't know where the national championship is right now, but he's kind of pro. But as a dad, right, who've been, around your son, from day one, always been there.
Yeah.
Does that make you proud to see that he's in his
Oh,
career, man? How does that feel? You like, you
oh,
sit back and you like,
man.
damn. Cause y'all look just alike besides you being 5'2". I don't know what the hell he got. He got this height from your grandpa or something. I ain't
Oh,
shit,
so that's
man.
how you gonna do me? That's how you gonna do me
Yeah,
on your
yeah,
show,
yeah,
five two?
yeah. How does that make you feel? Cause man, that's
Derek.
cause people ask, people you're a pretty outgoing person. People like ask you like, hey man, how your boy doing? And you gotta tell them,
Yeah,
how does that make you feel, bro?
man. Extremely, extremely proud. I don't think I can form the words that could express how proud, but also another word, relieved. Because at your point, you have these athletes, and I'll speak to Grayson that's been putting in the work. You have to be different. Let's be honest.
Oh
You
yeah, you
have to
gotta
be
be different.
different to get to that level. So that meant the dedication, the doing the things that others didn't do. So that's all entrenched and ingrained in you. But I'll say this. I'm so proud of him for making that quick transition. I was proud of him for taking his health and his future into consideration. And I'll say a lot of that was maybe a little bit easier for him because there was the buzz about Grayson being the next NFL Aggie before the injuries. Offensive lineman to come out of A&M, and his trajectory. It was possible. It was possible, barring the uncontrollables, the injuries and whatnot. But for him to transition the way he did and to take his life, his health, and his future into consideration made me extremely proud. I particularly remember a conversation when he came to that conclusion. And I remember him saying to me that this is what I think I want to do. I've taken, my health, my future, all of this stuff into consideration, and I want a certain quality of life. Broken leg, 3 knees, 4 knee surgeries, torn pec, all of this good things, all of those bad things. Sorry, um, just made perfect sense to me. But I think part of what helped him transition so easily also was the support cast that he had around him.
Mhm.
From day one, we would pound and pound into Grayson that this is your journey. This is about you. It's not about you letting anyone down. It's not about you having to save everyone. This is for your life, your future. And I always reminded him that at the end of the day, NFL and professional football, he talked about that, so I supported it. I talked about a degree. I talked about being part of an alum that would support him for the rest of his life. The connection, the networking, the that's all the stuff that I talked about. So I think at the end of the day, from me to grandma, grandpa, aunties, siblings on both sides of the family, we always talked about Grayson. This is about you, and you've accomplished the goal as far as we're concerned. You graduated with your degree. You're working on your master's. We want you healthy. We want you to enjoy a good quality of life. And I think that helped him transition quickly also. I know that some athletes and some families, of course, out of respect for them, are in different situations. And I can understand where some kids, hey, it's NFL or nothing else. And maybe they are receiving the pressures from friends, family members, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you
And
you said a word there. You say a lot of times, kids, young people feel like they got to save everybody, right? Because they coming
yeah,
out of certain situations. So
yeah,
I just use football for example, because I think other sports, basketball, real quick if you got it right. It's not that many
yeah,
guys. If you NBA got a shot, right? It ain't. I think football sport. Well, we all see those NFL dreams. I had them.
yeah,
And sometimes, like you say, you feel like you got to save everybody, right? You want to
yeah,
make it because you want to buy mama, car, house,
yeah,
little
yeah,
brothers, your homeboys, your friends, everybody looking at you.
yeah,
And we see it on draft days, right? We see draft
yeah,
parties, right? You got 300 people around you, right? Or
yeah.
whatever, right? 100.
Mhm.
Everybody is looking at you, right? Everybody in
100%.
those rooms on you or celebrating you like listen we made it right and everybody feel like they're supporting you but a lot of them feel like and two without even telling you, athletes feel like I gotta save everybody. So a lot of
Yep.
times you put it in, like we hit back early. You say you got to be different because everything
Yep.
is on your shoulder, right? But I think
Yeah.
if you have a supporting cast for you, steady talking to you, letting you know, like, hey, this is you. You don't you we good. You don't have to put all the weight on your
That's
shoulder to
it.
make it. You don't
That's
have to
it.
press hard. Like we happy, you a way of life. Hey, we have barbecue. Once you better walk around, not limping and
One
hurting.
hundred
And
percent. 100
I look
percent.
back on my football days. Shit, my knees still bother me now. I ain't played football shit in 20
Hey,
years. Hell,
it's a brutal
back
sport, man.
hurt. I'm like,
Yeah,
shit. I
brutal
gotta get a
sport. Yeah.
massage.
Yeah.
Brain a little messed up sometime. I'm like, shit. I gotta drink coffee. So I feel
Yeah.
like the more and more families that understand you don't have to put so much on your kid, feel
Oh
like
man.
to make it to save everybody. Cause and like I was telling you earlier, and I tell a lot of people, it's so much information out there,
Yeah.
good information that
Yep.
you can find on the internet nowadays, and what people telling their stories away. Hey, you don't have to save everybody.
You don't.
Because that's a good, I look back at my buddy I grew up with. He played NFL 12 years, Moran did, and his family always has had a little something. Dad had mom and dad. He's one of the few families that I grew up with. Well, I go to their house, mom and dad. Their dad got a real job, mama got a job. So I think it helped him play 12 years in the NFL because he never
Yep.
had that weight on his shoulder. I got to go
Yep.
home. I got to take care of mom and dad, my brother, everybody. And I think
Oh,
that I just look
100%.
back on him. I feel like he
Yep.
not as stressed as some of the other guys that he know that's that's stressed out. But I think when you hit it on the nose, man, you feel like you don't have to carry the weight to
Yeah.
save everybody in that word because because that's what you hear, right? Oh shit! The first thing I did, buy my mama house, do this, which is
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, right? But I think if
No,
you
not at all.
feel like you don't have to save everybody, man, I think it makes your transition clear. And after ball is over with, I think it makes everything clear for you to move on if it's over, right? Versus
Yeah.
keep going, because now you like, man, I let everybody down, I let my boys down, let
Yeah.
my
And that,
mom.
and that's
Yeah,
understandable.
that's,
I
that's
mean,
totally understandable,
they
right?
do go through that.
Because I think as a
Yeah.
man, right, that's how I
Yeah.
was raised.
Yeah.
Grandpa
Yeah.
worked. My grandma say
Yeah.
she worked, but I ain't never see her go to work.
Yeah.
And he came
We
home, took care of everything, whoop, that just as a man. So I think a lot of times you grow up like that, it just kind of, because that's how I was. I'm like, shit, I got to save everybody. Yeah, I got to do this, got
right.
to do this, figure this out. But I think you hit it on the point, man, on those points. But I think the biggest thing, I hope people take away from this is that, on the recruiting side, be involved,
Yes.
much as you can, especially parents, guardian, whoever, be involved much as you can on this process. And two, don't put that on your kids to they got to make it. Make sure they're getting their education. Because, like you say,
Yeah.
you go to, it's no reason why you should go to these big colleges, these Power Five schools, A&M, Texas, Auburn, Clemson, wherever, right? Michigan, USC, and you don't build your network up, man.
Yeah.
Most of these schools, I was I was random looking at some A&M the other day. It was they pulled up the top five, the wealthiest guy. I don't know if it was right.
Mm.
A&M. I think the top guy who went to A&M was worth like $10 billion right now, right? So
Uh-huh.
you mean, and he goes to all the games. So it's no way you shouldn't go find him and meet him and say, hey, I'm such and
Oh,
such. And all
man.
these guys are engineer guy. Hey, I'm such and such. Build your network up, and all these schools like that, right? So I think as a kid in a family, if you go to these mega schools and all you come out with is football and not your
Yeah.
great education and a network system where you can go move around, you can go meet this person, meet that person, you didn't fail, in my opinion.
And so
So it's
Derek,
no way, it's no way I'm going to, 100,000 people at every game,
yeah.
right?
So to your point, that's another lesson along the way that you can teach your son is the networking aspect. As he's being recruited, the firm handshake, the eye contact, the walking in a room and walking around and introducing yourself. That helps in recruiting in itself because these colleges are also looking for high character kids. So that's impressive when you have a kid that walks in the room with confidence and yes, sir, no, sir, the handshaking. So to your point, once they get to that academic institution, it's nothing for them to be in a room full of influential people and they walk up and introduce themselves because you're right. Networking is everything. Networking is everything.
And
Yeah.
sometimes people say it's about who you know, but I always say it's about who know you, right? Because
Yeah.
because
That's a
that's
good
how
way
I
to put
get
it.
clients. I'll be like, man, I don't know how you find me. Oh, such and such know you, and they told me blah 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 blah, right? So I always tell
That's
people
a
that
very good point.
everybody shake your hand, they can be like, oh yeah, man, that person's solid right there. Then you come back my business, my one of my biggest blessings in my life came from a client that I hadn't talked to in 15 years. Randomly called me and introduced me to somebody.
Yeah.
He said, "Know what? You took care of my son when he was with you 15 years ago." And I
Uh-huh.
always remember that. If I always say to myself, "If I can help you, I'm gonna help you," and boom, he plugged me in, and I'm, and I'm like, damn, and I'm like, damn.
It's
I think about
powerful.
that. I say, man, you know what? I remember him. I took care of his son. I treated him good, man. I treated him like everybody else and shit. And next thing you know, his dad remember that 15 years later and plugged me in. So that network, man, is huge on that. So parents and kids out there, make sure and you're in these rooms, especially on these visits, you in these fancy buildings, eating, man, introduce yourself, network, put your phone together, hey, boom, 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 boom. Because these people, because they need you, you need them, and as life go on, even the parents, you can get a job, man. It's so much things you can get out of sports besides just sports, man. Life,
Yeah.
it's just everything, man. You start looking
Yeah.
at where did these people go to school? Oh shit, they went to my son's school. Oh, that's my
Right.
son.
Right.
I've seen guys in the gym, and I seen one guy the other day in the gym. I think it was a quarter. He played quarterback. Went to a big institution. I saw these people knew who he was and trying to talk to him, but I can tell he was so uncomfortable because
Hmm.
I can just tell he didn't know how to network, right? These regular
Right.
people like, man, you such and such, but I'm looking at his facial expression and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, he not comfortable. He don't even
Right.
realize the power he got,
Yeah.
right? You was a quarterback at this Power Five for years, and people recognize you, right? You don't play no
Right.
more, but they
Right.
looking
Right.
like that's such and such. But I can
Yeah.
tell he not used to talking to people like that. I just
Yeah.
can tell quick. And next time I see him, I'm gonna pull him to the side. I don't even know. Hey man, just start networking a little bit. You got like a lot of power, especially where we at.
That's
We out
true.
here in this area where all these energy companies out here. I don't know if you're an engineer or not, but shit, you might want to act like one hell when they come
One
talk to
hundred
you, because
percent. One
ball
hundred
over with.
percent.
And I think the highest paying jobs with a college degree is an engineer right now, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yes,
Terrance, man,
sir.
appreciate you having you on, man. Uh, quick question. You like to work out. What's on your ox when you're in the gym? You got your head. What's on your ox?
Oh
What you
man, I
listening
listen.
to?
Hey, listen, man. You gonna laugh at me, man. It just
Uh-oh.
depends on. I'll
Eddie
go
Wright,
anywhere.
Isley Brothers, who you listen to?
Oh man, sometimes I'm R&B. It just depends on what I got going on.
What you
Let
listening to today?
Man, I was in my R&B playlist today, man. I'm not gonna lie. Today was
What's your artist? What's your what? You
oh
kind of
man,
old school.
90s, man. The Tony
Okay.
Braxtons, the guy, the Drew Hills, the
Oh,
yeah, I'm back there, man. The real
new edition.
hey
You
Derek.
old school.
Hey Derek, let's not get confused. The real R&B. I don't know what they doing
Hey, I
today.
got you on that. I got you on that. Hey, Ted,
Yeah.
before I hop off, man, I always let
Yeah.
guests ask me a question, anything, shoot me something.
Man, I wanna know how things been going with the podcast, man. How you feeling about it? I know you're
Man,
putting
I'm
out some
feeling
great
good.
content.
I've
Yeah,
had great feedback from people, and like
good.
I tell people, I'm doing this to give information to people. I know so many people out there, and I've been around a long time. I didn't seen guys make it, don't make it. Been around all kinds of parents, so I
Yeah,
feel like it's going good. We took off for a while when we first started.
yeah,
COVID hit because we started this years ago. Then I had to regroup, and kind of like get back on it. But I think it's going good, man. This is something that I'm passionate about.
good.
And I look at it like, hey, if I can help one person that watches this, one
Oh
family,
man,
one kid, I'm did my job. And I've getting a lot of great feedback from a lot of people on that. And that's my goal on with this is to give parents and kids information out there and give people, even coaches.
yeah,
I always look at high school coaches. It's a little different now. I grew up under Coach Seals, who was very informative. I think a lot of coaches now are young and they just don't have a lot of information out there, right? And kids are different
right.
now. I don't care what nobody say. It's different
No,
from 20 years ago, right?
sure.
We live in a social media era. Everybody want to be clapped on the back. You're doing good. You're doing good,
Yeah,
which I totally get, right? Everybody, you know, it's different, right? You talk crazy to this kid,
yeah,
he might leave and transfer
yeah,
tomorrow. So you got
yeah.
to know how to deal with it. So I kind of do it for the coaches too to understand and understand how parents are, right? Because now I think a lot of schools now, if you once you start bringing in the parents and everybody in together, not just the kids, and now
Right.
everybody's a team, right? And you kind of
That's right.
understand the ultimate goal,
That's
right?
that's right.
Everybody's not gonna go D1, everybody not going pro, but you can get a great education, live a great life, build a network, and move on and have a family and build, contribute a member back to society, because I think that's bigger more than anything is
Man, well
is
said.
hopping into the world and giving back and
Well,
helping somebody
well
else, right?
said. Well said.
Yeah,
And that's my thing. I would say, hey, you're going to be, you're going to be Derek Jones or Terrance Reed or Grayson Reed way longer than you will be, Derek the football player, Terrence the football player, Grayson the football player. So that's well said, man. And I do want to say, I got a comment, man. Super proud of you, man. I think
appreciate
I first met you.
it.
Shoot, we
Long
looking
time
at
ago.
what 14 years ago,
Sheesh.
So
Long
so
time.
proud of you, man. And we need
Appreciate it.
more people like you, reaching out and getting this information to help parents and because it can be a daunting task, it can be confusing, it can be overwhelming. And if they got a place that they can go and click a button and hear some good conversations around that subject matter, that's fantastic, man. And kudos to you on your podcast. I know what 4 or 5 years ago you kind of mentioned kicking around the idea of doing it. And man, look at you. You stayed true. You
Yeah, that's
stayed
that's the
down,
catch,
and
and that's what
that's
I
where
would
you
tell
at now.
anybody, man. You got to stay the course of whatever mission you
Yeah.
got, because you're gonna go through a lot of crap, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
some random stuff you're gonna go through on your journey. That's sports, life, anything. It was shit. If it was perfect, hey, we all be walking out that red carpet to that tree
And
shaking, and a lot of money
100%.
coming off. So I always tell people you can go. And I've been through so much crap. I could probably can write a book on that. But man,
Yeah.
appreciate you having on, Terrence.
Appreciate you.
Man, great information, parents, kids out there. This is D Junk signing off for Sports Resort. Terrance Reed, Cleveland, Texas, East Texas, West Texas, D1, 5 star, everybody, man. Appreciate you having on. Peace out, T.